Hi everyone, this is Nisha Soames. I am from KPR Institute of Engineering and Technology. In today's video lecture, let us learn about stream ciphers and random number generation. So this topic is being held under the domain cryptography techniques. So as you all know, cryptography is a practice and study of techniques for secure communication in the presence of third-party adversaries. So, in cryptography, we learn various algorithms and protocols to protect the confidentiality, integrity, and authenticity of messages, data, and communication. Now, let us see how stream ciphers and random number generation creates a difference in uh, applications where security has to be implanted. So, again, before we delve into the presentation, I'll just give you a small outline about what stream cipher is. So, stream cipher, block cipher, these are the two types of ciphers that can be created from a plain text. So, stream cipher, as the name implies, is being treated as the bytes, okay, bytes of data that is being transited across the network, right? So block ciphers are fixed blocks of data, as in say 128 bits or 64 bits. So the entire block undergoes the encryption process to be produced as a block cipher. Whereas here in stream ciphers, we take up a few bytes of the data, and then it is XORed with the key in order to produce the stream ciphers and so on. Okay, so with this, let us see how stream ciphers and random number generation adds value to cryptography. So, starting with random numbers play an important role in the use of encryption for various network security applications. So, in this section, a brief overview about the usage of random numbers in cryptography and network security is introduced. So, this entire points that is mentioned here focus on the principles of pseudo random number generation. So, getting good random number is important, but at the same time, they're difficult. So, why it is difficult? Because we don't want someone to guess the key that we are using to protect our communication. That is where random numbers, come into existence, and therefore you can see plenty of applications which is listed out here. So the many uses of random numbers in cryptography are they are used as nonces in authentication protocols to prevent the replay attack. Then they are used as session keys. They're used at the time of public key generation, used in the key stream as a key stream for the one-time pad and so on. So traditionally, the concern in the generation of a sequence of allegedly random numbers has been that the sequence of numbers be random in some well-defined statistical sense. Okay. So randomness has to focus on some uniform distribution, and at the same time they have to be independent as well. So in applications where reciprocal authentication is required or a session key generation is required, the requirement is not just that the sequence of numbers be statistically random, but the successive members of the sequence are unpredictable as well. So in this case, if random numbers are chosen wisely, I mean, not chosen wisely, it's used wisely, it is not possible to predict future values having observed previous values. So with two random sequences, each number is statistically independent of other numbers in the sequence and therefore unpredictable. So true random numbers are seldom used. Rather, sequence of numbers that appear to be random are generated by some algorithm. So here let us see some random number generators which helps in the production of pseudo-random numbers. So cryptographic applications typically make use of deterministic algorithm techniques for random number generation. They produce sequences of numbers that are not statistically random, but if the algorithm is good, the resulting sequences will pass many reasonable tests of randomness. So such numbers are referred to as pseudo-random numbers, and they are created by pseudo-random number generators. So here we outline the contrast between true random number generator, that is abbreviated as TRNG, true random number generator, with two forms of pseudo-random number generators. So here we have two forms of pseudo-random number generators, namely PRNG and PRF. So a true random number generator takes as input a source that is effectively random. The source is often referred to as an entropy source. In contrast, the pseudo-random number generator takes as input a fixed value called the seed and produces a sequence of output bits using a deterministic algorithm. Typically, as shown, there is some feedback path by which some of the results of the algorithm are fed back as input as additional output bits are produced. The important thing to note is that the output stream is determined solely by the input value or values, so that an adversary who knows the algorithm and the seed can reproduce the entire bit stream. So here in this figure, there are two PRNGs, two different PRNGs presented. So first one is a pseudo-random number generator. So this is an algorithm that is used to produce an open-ended sequence of bits, and it is referred to as PRNG. A common application for an open-ended sequence of bit is as input to a symmetric stream cipher. And the next one, the other form of pseudo random number generator is PRF. It stands for pseudo random function. A PRF is used to produce pseudo random string of bits of some fixed length. So examples are symmetric encryption keys and the nonces. So typically, the pseudo random function takes as input a seed plus some context specific values such as the user ID or an application ID. So when a PRNG or PRF is used, that is when a pseudo random number generator or a pseudo random function are used for a cryptographic application, then the basic requirement is that an adversary who does not know the seed is unable to determine the pseudo random string. This general requirement for the secrecy of the output of PRNG or PRF leads to the specific requirements in the areas of randomness, unpredictability, and the characteristics of the seed. In terms of randomness, the requirement for a PRNG is that the generated bit stream appear random even though it is deterministic. So, there are applications that specify that some standard tests should seek to establish the following three characteristics. So here we have uniformity, scalability, and consistency. And then later, SP 822, it's a standard. The standard listed 15 separate tests of randomness. So a stream of pseudo-random numbers should exhibit two forms of unpredictability. So one being forward unpredictability and the other being backward unpredictability. The same set of tests for randomness is also provided as a test of unpredictability. So if the generated stream appears random, then it is not possible to predict some bit or a bit sequence from the knowledge of any previous bit. Similarly, if the bit sequence appear random, then there is no feasible way to deduce the seed based on the bit sequence. That is, a random sequence will have no correlation with a fixed value. For cryptographic applications, the seed that serve as the input to the pseudo-random number generator must be secured. Because pseudo-random number generator is a deterministic algorithm, if the adversary can deduce the seed, then the output can also be determined. Therefore, the seed must be unpredictable. In fact, the seed itself must be a random or pseudo-random number. So when a Pseudo-random number generator or pseudo-random function is used for cryptographic application, then the basic requirement is that an adversary who does not know the seed is unable to determine the pseudo-random number string. So this general requirement for secrecy of the output of a PRNG or PRF leads to specific requirements in the areas of randomness, unpredictability, and the characteristics of the seed. So here you can see randomness is again explained in terms of uniformity, scalability, and consistency. So uniformity stating that at any point in the generation of the pseudo-random number sequence, the occurrence of a 0 or 1 is equally likely, where the probability is zero point 0.5. And scalability demands that any test for randomness applicable to a sequence can also be applied to any random subsequence, which means the randomness should be available in the subsequence as well. It should pass. And then the last being consistency, where the characteristics of the pseudo-random number sequence of the pseudo-random number generator must never depend on the seed used. So by far, the most widely used technique for pseudo-random number generation is the linear congruential generator, first proposed by Lemma. It uses successive values from an iterative equation. So you can see the iterative equation here. It states xn plus 1 is axn plus c mod n. Okay, so it uses suitable values of parameters which can produce a long random like sequence, but there are only a small number of such good choice. So note that the sequence, whilst looking random, is highly predictable, and an attacker can reconstruct the sequence knowing only a small number of values. There are some approaches to making this harder to do in practice by modifying the numbers in some way. So here, the criteria that has to be followed are this function which generates a random number should be a full period function. The generated sequence should appear random and should effectively be implemented with 32-bit arithmetic. In this way, the attacker cannot reconstruct the sequence given a small number of values, thereby making the possibilities of finding the random number harder. Another popular approach to generating secure pseudo-random numbers is known as the Blum-Blum-Shub generator, or otherwise BBS generator, after its developers Blum. So it has perhaps the most strongest public proof of its cryptographic strength of any pseudo-random number generation. So it is based on public key algorithms and hence is very slow. So it has, though slow, it has a high level of security. It is referred to as cryptographically secure pseudo-random bit generator, which being in practice is unpredictable. So the generated sequence of random numbers, they are unpredictable and they pass the next bit test. The security rests on the difficulty of factorizing or factoring capital N. Okay, and it is unpredictable given any run of bits. They are slow, but they are effective. They might be too slow for cipher use, but they are good for key generation, and they are based on public key algorithms.